All right, man, let's do something different today. Let's play a game. I'm going to walk you through what marriage actually costs over 30 years. Not to complain about it, not to be bitter, just pure math, just accounting. And here's the fun part. You're going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. If I nail something, confirm it in the comments. If I miss something, add it. If I'm completely off base, call me out. We're doing this together because I want to know if what I'm seeing matches what you actually lived. And look, this isn't anti-marriage. Marriage works for a lot of people. But somebody needs to run the numbers on what it actually costs. Not just in money, but in time, freedom, choices. Because most men hit 60 and realize they never actually added it up until it was too late. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stick around. Because we're about to break down 30 years of expenses. And I guarantee you're going to recognize at least half of this. Ready? Let's see if we can actually calculate what 3 decades of marriage costs. And remember, comment section is open. Keep me honest. Let's start with the first 5 years. I call this the buy-in phase. Cost is high, but your awareness of what you're actually getting into is basically zero. This is where you pay to qualify, to prove you're serious, to show you can provide. Think about it. Engagement ring. They say 3 months' salary, right? Who decided that? Doesn't matter. You pay it. $5, $10, sometimes $15,000 for a ring. Then the wedding. Average cost right now is about $30,000. Some guys spend more, some spend less. But it's gone in one day. You'll look at the photos maybe twice. Honeymoon. Another $5,000 to $10,000 depending on where she wants to go. And let's be honest, it's always where she wants to go. First, house upgrade. The starter home you could afford isn't good enough. You need the bigger one. Better neighborhood. The place with the yard. So you stretch on the mortgage. Furniture you didn't choose. That couch? You sat on it once before she bought it. That bedroom set? You're still paying it off on a credit card you didn't know existed. And then there's lifestyle inflation you didn't need. Dinners out because we both work hard. Vacations because we deserve it. Expenses that feel small individually but add up to thousands you'll never see again. They call this building a life together. And maybe it is. But here's what it actually is from a math perspective. Front-loaded investment with no exit clause and no guaranteed return. You're working harder, saving less, smiling for photos, and you think this is normal because everyone you know is doing the exact same thing. Which brings you to years 6 through 10, and this is where the spending really accelerates. Years 6 through 10. The expansion phase. Cost is very high now, and stress is rising fast. Bigger house. Because the first one doesn't have enough space. You're upgrading to a mortgage that stretches you thin, but she found the perfect place, and you don't want to be the guy who says no. Better cars, plural. Hers needs to be safe for the kids. Yours needs to be reliable because you're driving to work every day to pay for all of this. Kids are expensive. Diapers, formula, daycare, medical bills. Each kid costs about $250,000 to raise, minimum. Private schools or expensive activities. Because public school isn't good enough, and little Timmy needs piano, soccer, tutoring, and travel teams that cost more than your first car. Vacations you can't afford but are expected to take. Because the kids need memories. You need to pay off the credit card, but that's apparently not the priority. Here's what happens during these years. Your income rises. Every year you make a little more. And every single year, expenses rise faster. Every raise you get disappears before you feel it. You're making $20,000 more than you did 5 years ago, and somehow you have less money in the bank. You stop asking, do I want this? And start asking, how do I pay for this? That shift right there is where a lot of men lose themselves, but you won't realize it for another decade. Now, let me ask you, am I hitting close to home so far? Comment and let me know, because we're just getting to the expensive part. Years 11 through 20. This is what I call the peak drain. Cost is brutal. Return on all that investment? Questionable. This is where men quietly lose themselves and nobody talks about it. Your career plateaus or burns you out. You've been grinding for 15 years straight. You're making decent money, but you're exhausted. And you can't stop because everyone depends on that paycheck. Your health starts slipping. Weight gain, blood pressure, stress. You tell yourself that you'll get to it later. Later never comes. Sex slows down or stops completely. You're too tired. She's too tired. It's been 3 months and nobody's even mentioned it. Respect becomes conditional. You're appreciated when you provide. You're criticized when you're tired. You're valued for what you do, not who you are. You become a utility instead of a partner. The guy who fixes things, pays for things, shows up when needed, disappears when not. And you're paying for everything during this phase. Mortgage, college funds, car insurance, health insurance, family emergencies, everyone else's mistakes. And somehow you're still the bad guy if you say you're tired. Here's what nobody tells you about these years. This is where most men realize they're trapped. Not because they want to leave necessarily, but because they can't. Too much debt. Too many people depending on the paycheck. Too much invested to walk away now, so you stay. And you keep paying. Now, if you're watching this and recognizing yourself in every single thing I'm saying, do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. Because I break down the financial realities of life after 60 that nobody else will talk about honestly. Hit that button. Let's keep going, because the next phase is where the math becomes unavoidable. Years 21 through 30, the quiet reckoning. This is where cost becomes both emotional and financial, and reality becomes inescapable. The kids leave. That purpose you built your entire identity around? Gone. They're at college or moved out or building their own lives. And suddenly the house is quiet. Way too quiet. This is when men start realizing some devastating truths. And I want you to tell me if this matches your experience. You funded a life you don't actually control. The house, the cars, the lifestyle. Your money paid for all of it, but you never got to decide any of it. Your name is on the debt, but not on the decisions. You're responsible for the mortgage on the house she designed, the credit cards she filled, the lifestyle she wanted. Your value was tied to provision, not presence. You worked 60-hour weeks to give them everything. Those kids you barely saw, they call your ex-wife when they need advice. They call you when they need money. You look around your house and realize you funded a museum of someone else's taste. The furniture, the paint colors, the decorations, none of it is you. All of it was paid by you. And here's where it splits into two different paths. If divorce happens during this phase, you lose everything at once. Assets get divided, you lose half your retirement, maybe the house, definitely your time with any kids still at home. And you're starting over at 50 or 55 with a fraction of what you built over 30 years. If divorce doesn't happen, you often stay out of inertia. Not love, not partnership, inertia. Because leaving now means losing too much. So you stay in a marriage that feels more like a business arrangement where you're the only one still making deposits. This phase is brutal because it's when you finally see the full cost. And by then, there's no refund policy. which brings us to year 30 and beyond, and what your life actually looks like after 3 decades, year 30 and beyond. The aftermath. And at this point, the cost depends entirely on the choices you made earlier. Here's what I've observed. Men at this stage tend to fall into 2 categories. You've probably seen both types. Maybe you are one. The first category is what I call the drained provider. These are men who gave everything and got back. Exhaustion. Savings are depleted. Most of it went to the family over the years. College, weddings, emergencies, maintaining the lifestyle. There's something left, but not enough to retire the way you thought you would. Health is compromised. The stress caught up. Heart problems, diabetes, joint issues from decades of ignoring your body because you were too busy working to take care of it. Freedom is delayed or completely gone. You always said, someday I'll travel, someday I'll start that business, someday I'll do what I actually want. Someday never came because there was always another bill to pay. You're living quietly instead of boldly. You wake up, go through the routine, go to bed, repeat. That fire you had at 25, it's gone. You're surviving, not thriving. The second category is much smaller. I call them the rare exceptions. These men exist, but they don't talk about it much. They planned financially early, set boundaries on spending, invested independently, made sure they couldn't be financially wiped out by one bad decision or one bad divorce. They maintained autonomy throughout the marriage, kept their hobbies, kept their friendships, didn't let marriage consume their entire identity. They set boundaries and actually enforced them, said no when it mattered, didn't agree to every expense just to avoid an argument. They didn't outsource their self-worth. Their value wasn't tied to how much they provided. It was tied to who they were as a person. These men aren't loud, they're not on social media bragging about it, but they're calm, financially stable, and free to live however they want in their remaining years. The difference between Category 1 and Category 2 comes down to planning, boundaries, and self-preservation. And most men in Category 1 never knew they had a choice early on. Now let's talk about the real cost that nobody ever mentions. Because marriage doesn't just cost money. Everyone knows it costs money. It costs time. 30 years you'll never get back. Time you spent building someone else's dream instead of your own. It costs optionality. Every decision you made closed doors. Every year you stayed narrowed your choices. It costs leverage, financial leverage, negotiating leverage, the power to say no and actually mean it. It costs risk tolerance. You can't take chances when 3 people depend on your paycheck every month. So you stay in the safe job, the boring career, the path that pays reliably but doesn't fulfill you. It costs identity. You stopped being you and became the provider, the husband, dad, and when those roles end or shift, you don't know who's left underneath all of that. Most men don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they never saw the invoice coming. Nobody showed them the contract they were signing at 25. And by the time you're 60, the math is already done. The bill is paid. So now the question is, what do you actually do with this information? If you're married right now, here's what you need to do. Start taking care of yourself. Not next year, not when things calm down. Now, set boundaries on spending. You don't have to fund every idea that comes up. You're allowed to say, we can't afford that, even if technically you could. Protect your assets. Keep separate accounts for your personal savings. Not hidden money, just protected money. Because you've seen what happens in divorces. Take care of your health. You ignored it for 20 years to work harder. Stop. The medical bills you'll rack up later will cost way more than a gym membership costs now. Rebuild your identity outside of being the provider. Have hobbies. Have friends. Have a life that isn't just about funding everyone else's life. If you're a younger man watching this, pay very close attention. Plan before you go in. Prenuptial agreement is non-negotiable. Specify asset division, alimony limits, all of it. If she loves you, she'll sign it. If she won't sign it, you just learned something very important about your future. Keep separate finances. Yes to a joint account for household expenses, but maintain your own accounts, your own investments, your own financial independence. Don't let lifestyle inflate just because you can afford it. Every dollar you spend now is a dollar you won't have later when you actually need your freedom. Understand the cost structure before you say I do. This isn't unromantic. This is smart. You wouldn't sign a business contract without reading it first. Marriage is a bigger contract than any business deal you'll ever make in your life. And if you're older, single, or divorced, listen to me. You still have time. You still have options. Your life is not over at 60. It's not over at 70. You finally got the one thing you didn't have before: control. Fix your finances now. If divorce damaged you financially, rebuild deliberately. Cut unnecessary expenses. Invest wisely. Get help if you need it. Inside the Solo Man's Financial Playbook, we break down exactly how to rebuild financial stability after 60, how to protect whatever assets you have left, how to invest for security without taking stupid risks, how to live well on less because you're finally spending on what you actually want, not what someone else decided you needed. This is made specifically for men over 60 who are done funding other people's dreams and ready to fund their own. Link is in the description. Take care of your health. It's not too late for that either. Men in their 60s and 70s can still build strength, lose weight, improve their health markers. Start now, not someday. And enjoy your remaining years doing what you actually want to do. You spent decades doing what you had to do. Now do what you want. Travel if you want. Start a business if you want. Sit on your porch and read every day if that's what makes you happy. It's your life now, finally. So here's the truth you needed to hear. Marriage isn't inherently bad. It works for a lot of people, but it is financially asymmetric. One person typically pays more, sacrifices more, gives up more. So if you don't understand the cost structure early on, you overpay, you under-negotiate, and you discover the rules when it's way too late to change them. And by the time you hit 60, the math is already done. The invoice is paid, you can't get a refund. That's not bitterness talking, that's just accounting. That's 30 years of receipts that nobody wanted to add up out loud because it makes people uncomfortable. But you're over 60 now. You lived it, you paid it. And now you finally know exactly what it costs. So remember at the beginning, I said we'd do this together? You'd tell me if I got it right? Well, comment section is open. What phase cost you the most? Did I miss anything? How accurate was this to what you actually experienced? I genuinely want to know. And if this hit home, subscribe to this channel because I break down truth like this regularly. Hit that subscribe button and share this video with men who need to see the math they've been living. I'm Avery Scott, and I'll see you on the next one.